Okay, I think we'll give people a minute to join, and then I'll start presenting. Okay. Um, well, hi everybody. Welcome to Lacking Cybersecurity HQ. This is Michaela speaking, and I'll be giving you guys a rundown of our initiative and our interview for today. So, what is the BIOS initiative? The BIOS initiative is the Black and Offensive Security Initiative, and it is a digital media interview project designed to share and elevate the stories of Black copy and practitioners within the offensive security sector of the cybersecurity field. By highlighting these Black stories, it seeks to supplement our Red Team program curriculum with interviews and experiences from knowledge, and also provide a publicly accessible archive of these diverse experiences. So, with that, coupled with our Red Team Development Program, we hope to have these interviews to pair to show our students different perspectives as well as have a wealth of experience. So, today we have Xavier Johnson. He's a Black-owned business owner and a founder of two different cybersecurity communities, MySec and DC 313. So I'll hand it over to our host for today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on the BIOS initiative. Very excited to be here.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Hey. But yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to speaking with you, asking some questions. Trying to get to know you a little bit better and really kick this off. Start this off right. So, and I heard you the man to do it. Let's do it.
Let's get it.
All right. So yeah. So
All right, I think we're having a little technical difficulties on the other end. Can you give us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Xavier D. Johnson. Everybody calls me Infinite, spelled phonetically. Uh, I've been a hacker since I was a kid. Started programming when I was 12 years old. Started off making video games. Moved from video game programming to web services, learning how to ingest web services for desktop apps. While in high school, I was fortunate enough to go to a high school that had a NASA program and engineering academy. So I was able to join that engineering academy at some point, allowing me to have access to different programs like FIRST Robotics for inspiration and recognition in science and technology, um, innovative vehicle design, as well as a number of other programs that were active at that moment. But those all sharpened my programming skills. I was able to create autonomous robots that scored without human intervention. I was able to create infotainment systems for experimental electric vehicles, and present those to executives of car manufacturers. So I had a lot of experience and mentors in high school that really lent well to me venturing off and diving into technology, IT, so to speak. So in high school, while I was a hustler. I sold party tickets. I was a party promoter. I had party bus company that allowed me to be able to kind of generate some income. So going off to school just wasn't really in the cards for me. So I went to community college and had a little time there where I was able to pick up some more programming skills around Java and C++. I had already been programming in C and BASIC before, as
Okay.
well as C Sharp. So, you know, at some point in college, I decided to step away from going full time and focused on just running a business that I had started while I was in high school that did software. So,
Awesome. Can I jump in for a second?
of
Because
course.
you covered such a broad range of things that that went from, you know, engineering autonomous vehicles to EMVs. Uh, Man, that's amazing. Were you born in like Silicon Valley? Did this take part in like Beverly Hills? Can you give us a little bit more geographic understanding about where these things took place?
I'm from the Midwest. I was born and raised in
Oh yeah.
Detroit, Michigan. So, very industrial town, home to the big three, what used to be the big three, now it's the big two. Um, and I graduated high school in 2010. So I was in school while automotive had taken a pretty large downturn. Both my mother and father were employed in automotive, and throughout my high school years, were greatly impacted uh, with loss of jobs and changes of career. So more than anything, kind of just took that as an understanding that I wanted to go into a field that at the time I thought was mechanical engineering because there was just so much opportunity in Michigan and Detroit specifically for mechanical engineers, and had mentors that were mechanical engineers, mentors that were electrical engineers. So engineering just made sense for me coming from that industrial background, but I didn't want to do software per se at that time. I really looked at software as something that was just like I didn't even know it was a job, to be honest with you. I was doing it as a hobby. I knew people got paid to make games, but I was really doing it because, you know, it was a hobby of mine.
Can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit about because I had the opportunity to kind of tinker around with some software and game development back in my youth. That's back when like PC Gamer, you get like the CD, and then all the files were there. You kind of tweak the skins. Was that kind of can you talk about were you dealing with like collision detect within your programs, or were you just purely dealing with skins and story layout? Can you give us a little bit more about that game development?
Sure. So, funny enough, probably thinking, why in the world did you start with games? Well, I wasn't the best student, believe it or not. I'm still not really a good student, right? Dropped out of college. I know how to learn. I know how to teach myself, but I just don't really thrive well in certain settings that are very distracting. So, growing up, I just didn't really. I was in trouble a lot. I was grounded. I think that's the word for it, right? I didn't do really good in school, so I got grounded. And a part of my grounding was, hey, no PlayStation. And I mean, this is PS2, right? Right before PS3. It's like, yo, like I need my, San Andreas. Like, what's going on?
Right.
But yeah, so getting those things taken away from me, my parents left me with a computer. I don't know what in the world they were thinking, but I mean, I was lucky enough to at least have a computer at home that was mine and had a connectivity to the internet. So from there, one long summer being bored, my grandmother got me a book. Well, I actually asked her, begged her for a book, Video Game Programming for Teens. And I used that book to teach me a programming language that's called BASIC,
I know
BASIC.
basic. I know basic.
Yeah, so BASIC was
Go
really
to
interesting.
and all of that.
Oh yeah, you had to number your own lines, right? And if you went by tens, you were screwed.
Yeah, it sucked real bad for you.
So I started off with BASIC, and from there, the book actually kind of guided us, right? So it wasn't as high level as skins. We did have to program the logic for actually placing pixels in certain positions, knowing where those positions were at all time, managing the memory for those different positions as they moved and changed, as well as, like you called, the collision, right? Knowing when the overlapping of pixels did occur and what functionality to fire off because of that. So, of course, it was procedural. So these games only really got to to a very low level of complexity, right? I built Pong. I think the next biggest game that I really built that I was proud of was a bug squashing game where all these spiders rushed out to the edge of the screen. If they got to the edge of the screen, you failed, but you're trying to click them as fast as possible. But at that point, that was about the time where my uncle was like, "Yo, you should go and like find an internship somewhere, or like do something with this. That's not just making games, right?" And I started to look into different things within high school to figure out, okay, well, how can I leverage some of the stuff that I like to do and turn it into, relationships and fun.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, we gotta get together and make Oregon Trail. Because I always die from dysentery, but I think it could be a real fun throwback for one of the CTF challenges or something like that. So
most certainly.
That sounds pretty amazing. I'd like to turn things over maybe to Alex, who's down there smiling.
We can't hear you, Alex. Sorry.
We can't hear you.
Sorry, guys. I said I wanted to borrow you from Socks to talk more about your business.
Go for it.
Sorry, I nerded out. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We all have those times. But it's so nice to have you on here. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. I'd love to learn more about your business and how you got those started, and just how the process from pen to paper to an idea that's like fully thriving went for you. How did that go?
I'll be very transparent here about my journey, because I don't want to lead anybody down a path of despair that doesn't need to, right? I started my first business at the same time I started to learn how to program. I was always into skateboarding, so I started a skateboarding company.
Awesome.
So, of course, drawing out a logo, figuring out a way to get it digitized, and this was 2004, right? This is right at the brink of e-commerce and being able to order things and get stuff drop shipped, and the on-demand print economy wasn't just exactly where it is today, right? So I was leveraging the partners that I could, but never really had enough money to get stock. So of course I had a few different friends that rode skateboards, so I gave them stickers and t-shirts and that kind of stuff, but never really made money. Right. It was actually a learning lesson. Like, I lost money. Like, I just didn't know how to scale that business. So going on to be a party promoter, learning how to generate income and market, I decided to go in as a partner on a party bus company. And while I was partner at the party bus company, I met a lot of different people who were rappers and party promoters, and they all wanted websites. And I was the guy who knew how to do websites. So I started a web development company called Infinite Development Solutions. And that's actually how I got my handle, right? Back home, everybody called me Zay. But after I started this business in 2010, they didn't want to say Infinite Development Solutions. That's really, really long. So people just called me Infinite. So that became my handle. And that business was really based on the back of my personal relationships with certain people in the community, and being able to do work that people were able to see and understand and get out. And at some point, I decided that I didn't necessarily just want to do websites. I wanted to do software. And so making the shift over from websites to software required a new network, a new way of operating. So I sold my stakes in the party bus company. I stopped party promoting, and I focused full time on just developing software for the startup community in Detroit. I did that for about 7 years straight before I actually broke into General Electric, and they forced me to sell my company, and sold my company in 2017. And so that was kind of like, I've had some other businesses inside of there as equity partners and building things with people, but that was like my first introduction to how business operated. I almost had about a decade plus of just understanding and knowing and failing and selling and buying and learning how the the relationship side of business works, the delivery side of the business works, the paperwork side of the business works. And I hit my head a lot. I didn't have many mentors. I didn't have many friends that were entrepreneurs. I had no friends who were technical. All of my friends were party promoters and, rappers and stuff. So I learned a lot of lessons fast and hard. And going into this business that I own now, Enterprise Offensive Security, also known as We Help You Secure, I had a foundation, a base of people in the industry that I had worked with from prior all the way to, not being an entrepreneur and being in corporate. So that allowed me to be able to have more powerful relationships where I was able to leverage and understand exactly how certain deals may have worked in the past with other vendors. What are some buying triggers? I actually been lucky enough to be in management, in corporate, and in a buying position. So I know how sales and corporate, that side of corporate works, the actual procurement process. So those experiences allowed me to be able to go out on my own, forge strategic partnerships via relationships, to be able to have a steady flow of work, as well as understand exactly where my expertise can fit in the market within the enterprise.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That was really well just discussed, because a lot of people definitely say, I want to start a business or get my LLC today, but they never, or they haven't yet to be aware of some of those things that go into the paperwork side of business. That's very important to talk about, especially as we mix and match, but also gain more traction in our initiative, bringing more people into the space and understanding how that works. So do you have any specific tips or tricks that you wanted to share with our community?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I have so much. The first thing I would say is, if it's not written down, then it never happened. It doesn't really matter how many conversations you've had until it gets written down in the way in which everyone can agree upon and things are signed. It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't really end up mattering, right? It's non-existent. So, make sure that whatever you think is happening is being able to be, written down, expressed very clearly and explicitly in writing, and always try and get that signed and or acknowledged, right? Via email is just as good as signature, right? I mean, they're acknowledging it, continue the conversation. But if not via email, get a document signed, especially for what we do, because of the nature of the business that we operate in, offensive security. And we have to be careful even using that. I'll go into that at some point, but the nature of what we do, we have to be careful, extra careful as practitioners, because there's imaginary lines in the sand that if we don't prod and poke from our customer to fully understand the scope, we'll find ourselves in hot water. Or if we don't really pay attention to exactly what the scope is and how we're managing that scope over the time and how that scope could potentially evolve and creep, then we put ourselves in bad situations. And that could be with copyright, that could be with tooling, that could be with IP space, certain email addresses, and the way that we communicate, the way that we present ourselves. These are all things that we have to think about as practitioners of cybersecurity, because effectively, no matter what people hire us to do, we're still abusing computers. And there is an entire act dedicated to people just like us that abuse computers, right? The Computer Fraud Abuse Act. So we just got to be careful to stay out of, CFAA hot water.
That is very true. That's so not only is it important to highlight right now, but just in case people do things, they definitely need to know that.
For sure.
Shenanigans. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my questions. Thanks so much, and we'll pull it back over to Socks.
No worries.
Hey, yeah. Speaking of which, CFAA and offensive security, and just understanding the mindset of offensive security, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the last two letters of the BIOS initiative, right? Offensive security. How has interacting inside of this space been for you? Transitioning from not only having a party promotion plan, a party promotion business, to like being a youth and growing up in the gritty Midwest. I'm from Chicago. I get it. But can you talk about like offensive security? Can you talk about how that is as a person of color inside those spaces?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, we don't see a whole lot of each other in these spaces just yet. We're starting to see a lot more brown people, and I don't even just mean black. I really do mean brown. I mean Indian. I mean South Asian. I mean Hispanic. In reality, a lot of this industry is ex-military, ex-law enforcement, ex-investigators, federal. And it makes sense that it is, right? Because before about 2006, 2007, hacking was very much so reserved for nation state and or criminal. There's really no in between. There's no real cybersecurity. There's not even a path for cybersecurity pre 2005, 2004 ish. So in reality, as we start to realize that this is no longer just a munition and actually a career path, something that we have to be responsible for, a culture, right, so to speak. It is nice to see more Black and brown people get involved. As of today, I would say that it's been harder being brown in the industry, even being yellow, as some people like to call it. Trust me, I'm just as brown when it comes time to sit in those rooms full of Caucasian people. They don't necessarily, we don't come from the same background. So a lot of times within cultures, there's subcultures. Like within hacking, there's subcultures. Like there's like people who get along for a lot of the same stuff. Like there's the executives that do the executive stuff. There's like the GRC people that do the GRC stuff. There's like the blue teamers and there's the red teamers. And then even within those, you have like these different sects and people that are just like, stick together. And I'll say that being brown in this space for about the last 8 to 10 years, it's been quite hard to find that circle that you could just go into and not feel awkward in and immediately grow with. So there's, unfortunately, there's a question that just came in. Is there a lot of gatekeeping? I was just going to touch on that. Unfortunately, there's a ton of gatekeeping, and it's done by way of culture, right? Like the people who are in hiring positions come from a background that does not allow them to fully adjust their perspective to what the next generation of cybersecurity can and will look like. So I think that's the most gentle way that I could put it.
So you brought up a couple different a couple different things, right? You brought up the subculture that exists, the subculture within a subculture within a subculture, right? Me being around inside the scene, early 90s into the late 2000s, and watching how that manifested and how that changed. I can completely understand your perspective. When we start to unpackage like what that is, are you finding that like the traditional, one of the things that I kept seeing was when you look on TV, when you see like movies like Sneakers or Hackers, they're always European cast, right? So you don't really see a Black hacker in those spaces where they get sensationalized. Even when we move into Mr. Robot, where
Right.
we start seeing some cultural diversity inside the space. I bring up these points because as a person that is running red team operations, and let's talk a little bit about what it looks like for system audits, right, or for full security audits, right. I have some 6 foot tall military background shaved head white dudes that go in and they say, hey, we're going to go and do a physical audit to a corporation. But I've also heard that there's or I've even witnessed that above the height of 5'11" Black, it becomes a little bit problematic. Have you had any experiences in encouraging or encountering that type of issue or hardship?
Yeah, I've been told not. I've been told, "Hey, man, you should work out, but don't get too buff." Yeah, there's definitely that. And funny enough, I'm gonna toss it out there. There's a two-way street there. So enterprise offensive security, we definitely have a diverse team. We got some older people who got the AARP cards. We got some young people. We got white people. We got black people. Don't have any women yet. Very, very close to getting a woman on staff. So I think that the benefit to having that level of diversity is because you do have certain customers that are just, they're buying what they understand. And if you want somebody to come and do a physical audit, but then the guy that's walking up with a carrier that's got a walkie-talkie, it's got lockpicks on him, it's got plastic handcuffs, the hat, he's spitting in a spit cup, you know, he probably knows a thing or two about setting traps and like understanding perimeters and like angles, and you know, you could probably think outside the box, right? Whereas like if you just sent me there and I show up in like my Cuban chain t-shirt, my Crocs, you know, I probably could do just as good of the job, but the customer isn't going to necessarily immediately have that just sense of relaxation. While that is very unfortunate, it is a bias that as a business owner you have to acknowledge and sell on. So I got old white dude for people that need old white dude. I hate to sound like that. I got young white military dude for people that need young white military dude. I happen to be lucky enough to work on right now I'm wrapping up an engagement for one of America's oldest black banks that's based out of Detroit, Michigan. It's not going to be too hard for you to find out who my customer is, right? Got black people working on that engagement, right? They go and they actually sit in the bank and they're face to face, and it removes friction, right? Like if I sent my young white military dude there, it'd probably be like, well, I mean, we know you're a minority company, but we really wanted somebody that was going to be like comfortable and like have conversations with us and like eat the same things that we eat at lunch. So I don't want to sound that way, but in reality, in America, we're still very much so there, and certain people fit better into certain roles. And I've even been on the short end of the stick, even recently, looking for opportunities I just don't fit the niche for, right? People who have less experience, but maybe have a different social presence or maybe have a different passion within a niche will get an opportunity that they'll then need to reach out to me for, to say, hey, can you help me with this? Because I don't even really know about the networking part of it. All I really know is about, you know, getting into the building. And now that I'm here, what am I supposed to do? You know, and that's why it's important to have teams. And cybersecurity is a team sport.
So what I took away from what you're saying is that diversity is what's going to move us ahead. The more presence of black faces inside of multiple levels of the industry equates to a better sense of usability and better access to tool sets and opportunities, right?
For sure.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So you jumped into red team operations, and I see the question inside the chat. I'll get to that a little bit later on. But let's back up a little bit. Okay. So you own a company, offensive security. You provide specific services.
Enterprise offensive security, also known as We Help You Secure.
Absolutely. My apologies. So I bring this up because there's been a little bit of friction that has happened as of late. But before we jump down that path, can you talk about some of the skill sets that you look at for a young, we talk about gatekeeping, but I think it's equally important to not be a gatekeeper to ourselves.
Right.
So can you kind of talk about what preparation would look like for a person? Let's pretend like I have no experience. Talk to me about how to what type of skill sets you might look for in a potential person, and you might find that lady for your team.
For sure. I say the number one thing that I look for is attitude right? Somebody who has a can-do attitude, right? We understand that every penetration test you're not going to have high findings. You might have some information on it, you might get some lows. You might even get a medium or two, right? But every bug you find is not going to be critical. It's not going to be a very high. It's not going to be a high. Not all the time. Every Windows internal penetration test, you're not going to get domain admin. It's just, I know what it looks like in the news, and I know what the ransomware guys are making you think. But in reality, they fail a lot too. They only have to get right once. So I have to, make sure that we're picking somebody who has the mentality that's going to be able to hit their head against the wall and go, okay, and then hit their head against the wall again and feel like, at some point they're making progress. So, or even, not being shaken by the lack thereof. So I would say that, that attitude is number one. Number two is going to be the ability to adapt on the fly. And I will say that it needs to be coupled with the ability to learn really, really quickly. One thing about me is people think I'm an expert at everything because I'll sit down and Google the fuck out of it. I'm sorry, but like that's what it is for me. I will sit there and research something longer than you. Even if you have a better understanding of it than me in 30 minutes, I'll spend the 6 hours that it takes to get the better understanding than you, or even to be at the same level of understanding as you. Because that's what hacking really is. People don't want to talk about that, but hacking is really sitting down in front of a system you have no idea about, nothing, and learning everything about it to the point where you can have your way with it. So being able to learn on the fly, having that good can-do attitude, those are two things that you can't teach. Those are things that somebody has to come with. And there's not an age limit to that. You could be 11, 12 and have that. You could be 65 and have that. So don't feel like, you've aged out or anything like that, or you have to go into management. No, just bring your attitude and your damn ability to learn, right? And then I think the next big thing that a lot of people are forgetting about is the communication aspect. If you cannot talk to the customer, I can't have you on the team because I'm the president of the company. I don't talk to every customer for every single request, every single thing. I'm enabling you. I've empowered you. I've given you the tools. I've made you the connection. I'm giving you the hours. Sit there and talk to this person for 8 hours a day if you want to. I'll pay you for it. That's how it works. That's consulting. So having somebody that knows how to communicate with the customer, put the customer at ease, even when things aren't going exactly how the customer expects, because that happens too. Because customers have expectations that are just off sometimes. Having somebody there that knows how to communicate, talk a customer down, as well as formally educate a customer, because what we do a lot of the time is education, especially in offensive security. We're not going in and remediating and fixing us and move. Let me fix it for you, or let me, detect this latest threat. We are saying, hey, this is why your system is broken. This is how indirect object reflection works. This is the reason why you want to actually fix it, right? Or this is how, cross-account trust can be abused. This is how you want to fix it. And having that, this is how you want to fix it conversation is where the real meat is for our customers, because that's where the retesting, that's where the ongoing engagements, that's where the consulting happens, right? The testing is just like it's almost a loss leader, right? It's getting into the building. So making sure that the person can communicate, and then everything from there is technical, which we can teach. Beyond me teaching you and other people within the company teaching you, we give training to our people. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, if you come and work for us, you get training. I don't care if it's sales training, I don't care if it's web application penetration testing, network penetration testing, email phishing. You got access to tools, because I've been in environments and jobs where that wasn't the case. I've never, ever had any training from any company that I've worked for. And I worked for major companies. So when I started my own, I wanted to make sure that I was providing opportunity for people that were junior and turning them into seniors. So
awesome. So it sounds like within your company, I'll find a few things. One, I'll find a culture of inclusivity. It sounds like I'll also walk away with the opportunity to not only learn on my own, get job related skills, but I'll have some type of mentorship path that exists there that's going to help me grow as a cyber professional. And for that, I want to applaud you, because in those type of actions, you're improving our cyber community, enabling, like, as people choose to move from your organization or they just outgrow their there are opportunities there. That means that when they come and work here for SOX Unlimited, right, that I'm now getting a candidate that has the mindset of, hey, okay, everything that's possible isn't inside of a book. Sometimes I have to create that path. I have to create that process. And you've given the tools for those people to be successful. So thank you so very much. Want to ask you a little bit about DC 313. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for all of you that have never heard of DEF CON is a hacker conference that happens in the middle of the desert every summer. It's been happening for 29 years now. So DEF CON has a local chapters opportunity for you to start a local chapter or join a local chapter. The local chapters are typically just groups of people who are into cybersecurity that otherwise would be, attending DEF CON. So that type of person, that attendee. So DC, there's DEF CON, and 313 is the area code for Detroit. So every DEF CON group, or DCG, every DEF CON group is actually assigned its name relative to its area code. So after going to DEF CON for 2 years, I was like, you know what? I don't want the party to stop. I want to bring it back home with me. I think it was DC 27 was when I made this decision. No? 26. DC 26 was when I made this decision. And I said, okay. I went to the DEF CON group's workshop, really cool workshop. Got to meet Jason Street, who was very encouraging. And one of the reasons why I was, excited to, there you go. Nice. One of the reasons why I was always excited to be in cybersecurity was Jason Street. So to be able to meet him and that really jazzed me up. So going back home, I had this great energy, and I just went and I was a member of a co-working space. We talked about me doing software in the community before, so I had a connection. They let me use their spot once a week, and I started a meetup, pay for my little meetup subscription, and I put it out there. My first 3 weeks, it was just me and a box of pizza, trying to work through. I bought one big case of beer the first time, and I brought it back with me the second time. I brought it back with me the third time, and eventually it started to grow. And it got to the point where, we got about 230 members now at DC 313. So on any given day, you'll probably catch about 40, 50 of them all at once. Inside of our co-working space. So we've leveraged Bamboo Detroit as well as Altimetric Collider in Detroit, Michigan. So shout out to both of them.
Sweet. I do also I got a couple questions there. They're streaming in. Can you talk about MISEC? Of course.
So MISEC stands for Michigan Security, MISEC, Michigan Security. I'm actually not the founder of MISEC. I'm a director of MISEC. It's a nonprofit, and I happen to run the Detroit chapter for MISEC. So there's a Southfield chapter, Detroit chapter, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Jackson. I don't want to miss anybody. So there's a lot of different Kalamazoo. There's a lot of different chapters all over Michigan. Michigan's really big, so to be able to have this
like that.
This network of so to be able to have this network of people who are all Michiganders as well, that all work at different Michigan companies doing cybersecurity, running cybersecurity companies, teaching cybersecurity universities. It's a really, really good place to tap in locally, to be able to have that network and those connections to be able to potentially start a business one day or find your first footing into cybersecurity. So we give people the opportunity to give talks. Everybody gets an opportunity to get talk. I don't care. For the people who have never been on stage before but are still working on getting on stage, we do something called Who's Slide, which is a game that comes from DEF CON. And we just give people random slides and put them in awkward positions so that they get over the fact that they're going to stand in front of people and maybe fumble over a slide. And you've seen people go from, not feeling comfortable to feeling extremely comfortable, even when they do fumble on their slides. MISEC also puts on 2 different conferences each year. Can't think of the first one right now, but the second one is B-Sides. The first one is Converge. Yep. So they put on Converge and B-Sides, both based out of Detroit, which is awesome. So yeah, MySec is super cool. If you get a chance, go to mysec.us, MISEC.us. Shameless plug.
Awesome. Okay, so we've gone from you talking about your culture to kind of how you're giving back to the community, how you're being represented, how you're feeding back to us all. Let's go ahead. Let's peel back a little bit of the onion and talk about the situation with your namesake, if that's okay.
Which namesake?
So you're offensive sec what?
Yeah, so the name of I should have wore a shirt. The name of my company is Enterprise Offensive Security.
There you go.
Right?
I love it.
Got that on demand for y'all. I'm a teacher. I teach over at University of Michigan, so I got a nice little setup. So Enterprise Offensive Security. So if you see here, Enterprise, that's like, that's where we work. That's the enterprise. That's the network. Everybody calls it an enterprise. It's not a rental car place, right? So they don't freak out. It's like enterprise, right? It's not a starship. Okay. All right. It's where we do our business. That's how we make our money, right? And offensive security is a genre of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a domain. Awesome. Offensive security is a very pointed sliver within that domain that is focused on just demonstrating how things are either secure or insecure by way of actually taking action on them, right? By actually going to do something with that endpoint or that asset, right? Mm-hmm. So funny enough, I was working over at a major company called Dynatrace. I was super burnt out. My manager, I was supposed to go work at a startup, supposed to get some ground level equity. I got my manager on board. He ended up getting the deal. I didn't like my deal, so he left. I lost my career advocate. I was like, oh no, I can't stay here. This company's about to go public. I'm the only, cybersecurity function in this area. I'm on an island. I got to go somewhere, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own thing. I got a nice chunk of change saved up. I got some good relationships. I've been traveling every single month, going to conferences. I got multiple certs. Like, let's go, right? At this point, I have been to London. I have been, over to Germany, over to Austria, like all just doing security work. So I figure, okay, I got enough of a personal brand now. I was doing a show called How They Got Hacked. I was like, okay, I'm ready now.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I felt good. I'm ready. So I went and started, looking for that next company. So I started a company called Detroit Cybersecurity, and it didn't really go too well. It just was too broad. People just couldn't really find me. Search engines just wasn't really working out. So I wanted something that was more descriptive, right? Something that people would actually punch into Google, something that people would actually, potentially look for, that wasn't so locale based. So moved to the name Enterprise Offensive Security. I don't remember exactly how, but I remember I also purchased Enterprise Defensive Security. And the goal was, okay, I want to have a red side and I want to have a blue side. Done, right? I got offensive and defensive, and they're both focused at the enterprise. You can't lose. I want to start with the red stuff because that's the stuff I know best. I'm already a red team operator at my current organization. I got all the tooling. I got the expertise. I got the connections. Let's rock. Went out, waited about 2-3 months while I was still building up my opportunity, and went and started to get opportunities, business to business. So now my business is scaling based on my personal relationships. I got a fairly large contract, right? Working on contract number 2, 3. And then at some point this year, I'm up to like customer 20, and all of them are repeat customers. And all of them I've had to explain to what offensive security is and why they need it. And out of nowhere, on July 3rd, I got an email from Offensive Security stating that there was a cease and desist and that they would like me to stop using their brand name because it causes conflict, and they are the global leader for network penetration testing, and every customer that I ever could have gotten of surely knows them and thought that they were doing business with them, and I'm creating confusion, as well as the fact that I know that they exist. I'm intentionally creating damages for their organization, and they will seek damages upon my damages. So of course I reached out to my lawyer, black guy from Detroit. We sit down, he about my age. We sit down. He like, bro, a cease and desist is like them just starting the clock. Anybody can send anybody a cease and desist. You can send Nico a cease and desist today and say, hey, you can't use socks no more. I got socks. They in my drawer. I got more socks than you, so you can't use it no more. If Nico gets spooked out and said, well, I don't want to use socks no more, then you win, all right? But if Nico don't get spooked out, he keeps running with socks, and I'll bring it back to enterprise offensive security. We continue to do business publicly as enterprise offensive security. Then there will come a time in which this company will be able to file a lawsuit immediately, right? And the real difference is since they sent the cease and desist, they started a clock. So let's say my company becomes $100 million company, $1 billion company by the end of the year. They're going to be looking from the point that they sent that letter to whenever we are filing, right? And they want to retroactively collect damages. And since I am doing business knowing that I have that brand name, usually damages is up to 50% of earnings, not net earnings. But since I'm doing business knowing, right, and there's these intentional damages that some judge would have to approve, but there's a potential that I could go up to 3x earnings to really spank me, or really let me know, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. So, based on the conversation I had with my lawyer, they don't really have a case. Offensive security is a domain. From his perspective, the only reason they did it is because I reached out to them to purchase training from an employee or for an employee, and they became aware of the brand name. And the moment that they become aware of a brand name that conflicts with theirs, they have to, by law, send a cease and desist and actually respond. They have to take action, or they lose their trademark. So as of right now, there's no lawsuit. There's no damages. I had already, long before they decided to come along and say this stuff to me, I wasn't really feeling enterprise offensive security. I got tired of explaining to people what it meant. So I came up with another brand called We Help You Secure. And so, we already have branding for that. We already had a domain for that. It's been pointing there. If you follow me on social media, you've probably seen it. I constantly talk about it. So We Help You Secure is going to be what we move forward with. But of course, enterprise offensive security will still be my LLC name. And that's the cool thing about business, is you can do business as a public entity in a completely different name and still have all your paperwork, your EIN and everything say something different. So I still get to keep my company, and they can't really do nothing about it at all.
Yeah. So I had a similar interaction and many years back. But the big thing that created a lot of safety net for me was the fact that the people that were upset with me, we did completely separate things. I wasn't even in the realm of possibility for it to be misconstrued. Like, it's like socks and then beer in the shape of socks, right? Like, I'm selling cotton wool things for your feet, and you're trying to come after me for beer. Okay, I don't understand. So,
Socks, what do you know offensive security for?
I know offensive security for a lot of different things. First of all, if we're looking at just brand name and branding, right? Kevin Mitnick and such, the PWK and whatnot, and prepping people up for getting into hacking things.
There you go. Yeah, I don't prep people up for hacking things. I'm not a training org, even though I want to be now, because healthy competition is needed in the space apparently. But it just kind of threw me off. I'm like, man, I don't even think that anybody could afford an offensive security penetration test. But okay, sure. My company is very discounted compared to every other company, because we don't believe that cybersecurity is a luxury item. I mean, it's priced like one still, but at the end of the day, it's something that should be accessible. It's like water for companies at this point. You can't just gouge for water during a hurricane. So,
gotcha. So I'm looking at your background, and I see something that I love. not only the beautiful DEF CON flag, but I see a Dell. Is that Dell 980 over there?
Oh, this is R720.
R720. Okay,
R720.
I have one of those in my data center.
Very nice.
So with that, you said that you did game design. You got into programming. Do you feel like cyber? I think I already know the answer to this, and that's where I'm trying to work my way to it. But do you feel like cyber and all its tenants, and even like cybersecurity, is more than a job but a way of life?
It's definitely a lifestyle. Cybersecurity, being secure in general, I think it comes down to habits, good habits. Yeah. So I would say that, good habits are really foundational to success in cybersecurity, and habits lead to lifestyle. So I lock my computer when I leave it. I don't leave it unlocked. I use multi-factor authentication where I can. I use a YubiKey where I can. You take those extra steps and precautions that may not be documented or imposed upon you, and that kind of makes it what you would consider a lifestyle. I'm one of those people that still, like, I'm from the hood. There you go. Nice. I'm from the hood, so every once in a while I'll take 3 rights. Every once in a while I'll take a couple left just to make sure nobody's behind me. And I've shaken it. What I felt like was a tail by doing that, because this person has made a right, made another right. Okay, on this third right, we on our way to a circle. So either you got to stay straight or you really following me. That's an interesting way to take a U-turn. To go around the block. So that actually comes into the perspective of cybersecurity, right? Like, that person might be trying to steal my contact book from my Bluetooth on my phone, right? Because I got my Bluetooth on inside of my car. You never really know. That person might be trying to, do a Wi-Fi man in the middle, actually, get my phone to connect to his mobile hotspot, and grab a token of mine, right? Send me an email at that very moment, have my email client authenticate, capture that token, and start to move laterally. So I don't know. I would say that some people may call it paranoia, right? But I would consider it lifestyle, right? And a lot of companies are unwilling to go that extra mile as an organization culturally to be secure. A lot of people have been wanting to move fast and to make things easier. And with convenience comes degradation of security.
Absolutely. I love convenience as a threat vector. So we got some questions. We're at the top of the hour, or approaching the top of the hour. So let's try and answer some questions. I believe that you answered this one. Is there a lot of gatekeeping
Yes.
going on? And you said
100%.
absolutely, you saw that.
I mean, even as what I would consider a senior consultant, somebody who knows how to price the engagement. I mean, I've been principal, I've been virtual CISO. So at the bare minimum, someone who's a senior consultant does not get the same opportunities that people who are transitioning from other industries that just went out and got a couple letters behind their names get, because they can go and relate to the hiring manager a little bit better than I can. Like, they're more willing to like go that extra mile and kind of like, for lack of a better term, kiss a little ass, where I'm coming from this point of like, I've had to make everything happen for myself. Like my first 10 plus years in this industry, I didn't have no opportunity. Nobody would give me a job. I had to go out and actually start my own business to be able to even build up enough of a repertoire to get a junior opportunity. Right. And then jump from job to job to actually get the title I want, only for them to put me on an island and say, hey, you can only move this fast. So I'll say that gatekeeping is happening, not even from the entry perspective, but the lateral movement perspective, the finding more opportunity within organizations. There's gatekeeping happening there, right? You might work at an org that needs security people and you want to do security and they won't let you. You might work at an org that needs penetration testing and you are a penetration tester and go home and do pen testing and write blogs, and but they don't want to give you that opportunity because they want to go hire new, either for money or for the fact that they want to just work with somebody that in their mind what they think a penetration tester should be or look like or interact with them like, right?
Awesome.
So certainly it's unfortunate, but it's there.
Next question. Has anyone done offensive security in a private sector and the government? And how big are the differences between government and private sector? I have a little bit to add to that, but I'll leave it for you.
I have, depending on what you consider government, right? Like I've worked with state government, never federal. State governments happen to be over schools and school districts, including colleges, by the way. Public colleges are their state level. So when they go do penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, that type of stuff, it happens through the state government. You have to have every single duck in line to be able to get that kind of work. I've been lucky enough to do hundreds of millions with the government over periods of time, as well as private sector. Definitely worked. I mean, that's nonstop what I do. I constantly work in the private sector. Mergers and acquisitions is where I make a lot of money. Banking, transactional APIs, those types of things. But I'll say the biggest of them all is through breach coaches that are responding to incidents that need to have assurance that environments are safe enough for them to continue to ensure. So private sector is on fire. I would say just as big as government. You just got to work a little harder in the private sector to actually pull the money out. The government's just giving you a lump of cash, but you got to wait 9 months to get it.
Okay. Lots of money. You just got to have patience.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Glad to see y'all. Could you expand on your experiences on beginning with entrepreneurship? Tips for someone starting out or wanting to go that route?
For sure. And you didn't follow up with that last one, but I'll let you slide.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Beginning with entrepreneurship, it's in you. It's in you. Entrepreneurship is something that like it's not taught. It's something that like you can't live without. Like it's just going to be in you. If it's for you, kind of thing. So I know that sounds kind of gatekeepy in itself, but like I would never tell anybody not to be an entrepreneur if they want to be an entrepreneur. Like that means it's in you. So as far as expanding on those experiences, I would say that I failed a lot. I burned a couple of bridges that I wish I still had today. Just because I did not know how to execute out on some of the things that I needed to execute out on at the time from the business perspective. I would say another big thing that people need to understand is payment schedules. Getting paid is really important and hard, especially when you're starting off as an entrepreneur. When you don't have a big company that has a lot of processes and accounts receivable, getting people to pay you ends up being one of the challenges that you start off with. So as you start this thing, you may want to go out and get, financial assistance from different places. I was lucky enough to have come from corporate so that I just had money sitting around so that I could use it to be able just to live off of for a few months. I also lived in Detroit, Michigan, which is like the cheapest place in the world to live other than Africa. So, I think that location, place, opportunity is all going to be something that has to line up right for you, as well as that can't quit attitude. I'll be honest with you. I changed my company name from Detroit Cybersecurity to Enterprise Offensive Security. I'm changing my company name from Enterprise Offensive Security to, we help you secure. Being flexible and not feeling embarrassed and being proud of what you've built and the challenges that come along with building something, as well as keeping an open mind to the ever evolving industry in the space and being able to actually evolve along with that space, right? And actually maybe, expand your offering. Think about the difference between enterprise offensive security and, we help you secure, right? Like somebody's getting helped at we help you secure 100%. Whereas offensive security, maybe offensive security helps them, but maybe they need a SIEM. Maybe they need somebody to deploy a SOC. Maybe they need somebody to deploy EDR, right? We help you secure is more fit to help you deploy that EDR solution in your environment to make sure that, you know, you can respond to that active threat that you feel like you have, and help you gather some of that data on how they may have gotten in there, confirming that through, you know, a different service that we may offer that may look like penetration testing, but maybe continuous assurance, right? Learning how to tailor your offering for your audience is going to be extremely important for you as an entrepreneur. And then just, again, getting used to failing and failing publicly, because when you are an entrepreneur, you are a public business. The bigger your brand gets, the more attention it'll be. Sometimes you'll get in your feelings. Sometimes it's going to hurt a little bit. But that ability to put your face back on, keep it moving, is what's going to actually get you to that next level. So in the beginning, if you keep these things in mind and you actually focus on quality, retention is very important for me. Every single one of my customers come back. We have 100% retention rate and repeat business. 100% since we've started this business. We don't have one customer that's come and leave. So that is a testament not only to the people that I have working with these customers, but also the process that we've put in place and our ability to deliver out on that process every single time consistently. And when we fail, we work with our customer to figure out, okay, outside of a monetary thing, how can we work with you to figure out how to make this process better, right? So entrepreneurship is something that is like, it's like a motor. You got to tune it. You can't just start it up and walk away from it. You might need to put different gas. You might need different timing. You might need different headers. You better be ready to spin your wheels for a while and have something there that's a parachute that can keep and sustain you while you need to invest in that business. Because if you don't, it's going to become really hard for you. Everybody's not going to have $70,000, $80,000 laying around so that they have a 6-7 month runway. It's going to be, you have to have, maybe you need to have a part-time job. Maybe you have to go and get financial assistance via loan, but you need to really think about, that those first 3 to 6 months, how can you run that business without actually taking any money from it? So I would say maybe for the first 5 months, I didn't make a single dollar, and then it still took a month to get paid, right? But then after that, it rolled, and then it rolled until about COVID. Because I did start a business during COVID. I don't think people realize that. I don't really speak about that very much, but I started my business July of 2019. I got my first contract like October 30th of 2019, and we went to Thanksgiving break, holiday break, and once we came back, the world was basically shutting down for COVID. So networking and those types of things was completely different in the COVID world than, in a pre-COVID world. So I would say that, as an entrepreneur pre-COVID, I was able to go travel, go out and actually meet all of these different people. And that was enough for me to build relationships where I could get opportunity. Post-COVID, I've had to really rely on content, public speaking, blogging, social media. So think about those things as an entrepreneur. How do you get in front of your target audience? Who are they? What language do they use? Those types of things.
Awesome. And I believe we got one more question before we begin to wrap up. And I'm glad that they brought up this question because as I asked you, from the perspective of a person looking to join your organization, you spoke about all the intangibles, and you didn't speak to certs. And I think that was purposeful because of that can-do attitude and how that enables people. But I'd like to hear your perspective with how important certs are within your day-to-day.
Funny enough, 2010, when I started Infinite Development Solutions, I didn't even know of a single cert. I'm not even sure there was certs. I'm pretty sure there was like Microsoft certs, but I didn't know about, I think it was Backtrack back then. Like there wasn't a Backtrack course, right? Like, so I didn't know about Security Plus or any of that stuff. And to be honest with you, I couldn't afford none of that stuff. My mom didn't want to pay for me to go to college. All right. So not that she didn't want to, but she just couldn't. It was poor. Like it was the middle of the last recession and we were in automotive. Like the government came and bought General Motors. Locally, we called it Government Motors. Like it was so bad. The ignitions, the ignition scandal, that was when the government owned it. It was cutting corners everywhere they could. I got a Government Motors card, so I know. So,
is it a Buick?
No, it's a Chevy. It's a Chevy Malibu, But I would say that, I didn't really necessarily know about these certs, and I didn't let it slow me down. Now, maybe I would have got more opportunities back then if I would have known about certs, took them, and went into corporate immediately. Instead, I kind of focused on just honing in on the craft, learning as much as I possibly could about programming. And once I got to a point where, like, I want to say about 4 years full time, 4 to 7 years full time programming, you become like in between professional and expert. I would say 4, you're probably a professional. About 7, 8, you're an expert. So, I mean, do the math, right? From 12 to 8 years after 12, right? By the time I'm 20, going on 21, I got about 10 years, working real life, being in different environments, experience. So, and still couldn't get opportunities. So I would say that, certs are really, really important if you want to go directly into corporate. They're going to get you they're going to get you through HR. They're going to get you selected over someone who's more senior than you. Somebody who can even demonstrate that they know the job better than you. They're not going to get the opportunity if you have the cert, because then they know that they can teach you anything that they need to teach you about, their specific implementation. Everything from there becomes documentation. It no longer becomes education. It's all like, okay, how do you have it configured? It's no longer like, what's an S3 bucket? It's more like, what's your bucket policy? And those are two completely different conversations. And, on paper, it matters for a hiring manager who has a budget, a timeline, a product manager coming down their throat, all this other stuff. Like, you got a lot of different, pressures within corporate when it comes to software, especially in between the years of 2010, when I graduated high school, and now 2021. There has been a great amount, an immense amount of pressure put into product organizations. I mean, the first unicorn wasn't really around in 2010 yet, right? Instagram was just really starting to like creep up. This is, Twitter was the big thing. I joined Twitter in 07. That was a big thing for us, right? And it was all over SMS when we first joined it. So, and they went down every day at 5:00. So like the time was just, it was time for them no longer to go down. Like the fail whale went away. Product manager said it's unacceptable. We can't sell ads between 5 and 6 because the server keeps going down, right? And so, of course, those companies that are looking to scale, they're going to go out and get somebody with a certificate in Red Hat or, enterprise Linux, because it's what they need to be able to stay up. They need a SRE, they need a DevOps engineer, they need a Linux admin. So they don't want to sit here and train somebody. They're a startup. They're trying to take this thing from 100 million to 1 billion. They need to hire somebody immediately. So that's when a cert is just extremely valuable. It's like, hey, gets you in the door. You're going to solve some problems. It's going to get you that experience that's going to allow you to move into the next opportunity. If you don't want to have a certification, you can still be successful in this industry in any way possible without it. You just have to realize that you're not going to get as far as fast. You're going to have to work a little bit harder. It's going to be much more social. Funny enough, I've never been hired via HR, ever. I've never gotten a job via HR, never gotten a job with my resume. And I was doing car hacking at General Motors. I was doing plane hacking at General Electric, train hacking at GE. Getting that next opportunity after GE wasn't easy. I had to be pulled into somebody, by somebody to go and work at the next org. So I would say that certs definitely makes it easy for you to transition into corporate and from one corporation to the next corporation. But with regard to abilities, certs don't necessarily mean that you know what you're doing. They don't make you any type of expert or speak to any kind of knowledge other than the knowing or existence of a particular topic or subject matter. That's my 2 cents on it. I have 2 certifications to my name right now. They both expire. I got them in the same year, 3 years ago at AWS reInvent. I was there. I just wanted to take the certs. I passed them. I took the solutions architect and the security specialty. I haven't gotten a single job because of them. I don't use them. So do I know a lot about Amazon Web Services? Yeah. Like I've been working in it since 2010. So yeah, I know a shitload about it. But in reality, did it give me an opportunity that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten? Not necessarily. And I mean, I applied at Amazon. So it's really a give or take. I would say that the same amount of time that you spend building, your cert catalog, make sure that you're reaching out to people, building relationships, because people hire from within. Within, right? Within also means friends, family. Nepotism is a thing. That gatekeeping, I mean, the gate's going to open for
What
you.
are you talking about? What are nepotism? Is that
It's a thing.
somebody's name?
It's when you hire a person just because you like them.
Well, I really appreciate you, like, really going into depth and sharing, like, what your experiences are. I mean, it's obvious based upon the conversations that we had, and me meeting you for the first time at DEF CON, outside of, like, we met IRL, so that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to like, here in Michigan. I'll get back to Chicago and I'll drive up to visit you.
Listen, we got to chop it up, man. I'm mobile right now. I'm
awesome. Awesome. It's been a pleasure having you coming out and sharing your experience. I think you carry a great wealth of knowledge. I want to give you a minute to just really talk about things that are either on the horizon for next quarter, or like things that you're passionate about, that you're into, that we wouldn't normally know about. And if we can assist, or if there's a niche that you're looking to fill that our listeners, our watchers can help you with, let's take this time to go for it.
All right. Well, I am a serial entrepreneur. I have multiple ventures. While I am most well known for IT, cybersecurity, security, software, websites, some people still know me from websites. I'm starting to build a reputation, a repertoire for custom jewelry, as well as clothing. So I do have a clothing company called redteamclothing.com. It's for hackers. Please go ahead and feel free to check that out. I'm always looking for people to help me out with designs. I'm always looking to collab and host other people's product, get it printed and drop shipped. So yeah, those are big things that I'm working on. Right now, we're going through the rebrand for We Help You Secure. We just landed a very large contract with a company that does about $45 billion a year in revenue, based out of over the lake, so to speak. So we will probably have some opportunities on the horizon with regard for hiring and bringing some people on. So please be on the lookout for any kind of postings or any of that type of stuff that you may see. And lastly, I want to get back into content creation. It won't be your typical content creation. It won't be like the John Hammond stuff or the Tom Lawrence stuff or the Nahum Sex stuff. Those dudes are really, really good at what they do. But I think that it's time for us to have these types of conversations like what me and Nico just had, that are around the business, developing the business, grooming the business, and understanding that side of cybersecurity. It's just very, very important. We can't just focus on this technical, beat up the blue team stuff forever. We have to start to figure out a way to make this content palatable for people that actually make decisions about the well-being of their customers. And typically that starts right above the technical person. Believe it or not, it'll fall into the lap of the CFO, right? If you have a breach right now, the first person they call is the CFO. The CFO makes the decision if they want to call a counselor or not, because everything from there is now a budgetary concern. How much money are we bleeding? So every single thing in cybersecurity actually is flowing through the CFO. You want a new firewall? Got to get it approved by CFO. You want a new hire for cybersecurity? You have to approve it through the CFO. So if you start to speak the languages of a CFO as a cybersecurity practitioner, then you can start to actually break through some of those barriers that will help the randoms, the general public. So tossing that out there, be on the lookout for more of that kind of content. My YouTube is Xavier D. Johnson. Check me out. Follow me on Twitter at Infinite, INFENET. And that's all I got for y'all.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to share your infinite wealth of knowledge with everybody. I really got a lot out of it. We have a CTF that's coming up. It's just around the bend. And as you were talking about, not quite like John Hammond or whatnot, I think that there's a place where you and yours can collaborate with us wholly. And again, I thank you for being not only a great person in person, but being our first coming out to open up. So you're gonna be a hard act to follow.
Awesome. I'm happy. And I'm coming back, whoever outdo me.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much for having me. Much love and appreciation. I know we'll definitely be collaborating soon.
For sure. And thanks to everyone who took the time to attend. And until next time, we're out.